That's it?
There comes a time when I have those moments where a film has left me feeling a specific emotion. From 2014, it was sheer excitement, enjoyment, and happiness. Skull Island made me feel warmth in my heart and relatively satisfied. King of the Monsters left me confused, angered, and disappointed. Godzilla vs. Kong is a different story all on its own. This was the big event I had been looking forward to for a long time, and it's safe to say that, overall, I loved it from beginning to end, and it was a fucking awesome ride to experience. However, as much fun as I had, while acknowledging the sheer stupidity of this film, I have to say that this film is still garbage, and it ended off with me feeling a sheer amount of sadness, disappointment, and full-on rage. Let me make it crystal fucking clear for all of the 12-year-olds in my audience. I don't hate this film, and I don't hate any of the MonsterVerse films, and I rather enjoyed every single one in some form or fashion. But there comes a time when you need to acknowledge the flaws out of every one of these films. None of them are perfect, but it's rather saddening to say these films have continually gotten worse by each installment. It's also sad when you have people defending these films for the dumbest reasons, or just outright being hypocritical. And no, I am not criticizing or dismissing people for enjoying something they like, you fucking tards. Now, Godzilla vs. Kong. Do I hate it? No. Did I enjoy it? Fuck yeah, I did. Is this a good Godzilla movie? Yeah, it's the perfect Godzilla film anyone could ask for, and it's eons better than King of the Monsters. Is this a good movie? Not by a fucking long shot. But before I continue, let me clarify by saying I recognize that the filmmakers wanted to deliver on the forefront purpose of this film, Godzilla and King Kong beating the absolute shit out of each other, and they do not play around with it. They delivered and significantly improved over King of the Monsters. In most areas, anyway. Which I might as well cover first of all. The positives. The effects are the biggest improvement compared to King of the Monsters. I can see the monsters in action, the lighting is better, the CGI actually holds up, and is glorious to look at. Opening credits is a fucking plus for me. The cinematography is done especially well, and this film is absolutely beautiful to look all the way through. Kong as a character is really sympathetic, has a good sense of motivation, and his connection with Gia is executed relatively well, and I found myself to feel bad for this big monkey. Godzilla was fun to watch, and his second introduction for that first fight was actually really fucking cool. And of course, the fights are the highest points of this film. With all that in mind, that is where my praises end for this film, because Godzilla vs. Kong is a sloppy, terribly paced, poorly written, rushed piece of shit. Hell, if I'm being honest, I think King of the Monsters has some praises over this film. Some praises. How they managed to accomplish that, I have no idea. Now, in terms of critiquing this film, I am still gonna give it the same treatment I did with King of the Monsters, all based on the simple fact that each and every one of these films take themselves seriously on some level, especially where they started. This set the standards in what the MonsterVerse could have been. So I'll be splitting this review into sections this time around since there's barely any relevance to a plot, which we'll get into later. So let's start off with the obvious. Godzilla. He's barely in it, as Kong takes majority of the spotlight. We have a quick opening of him destroying the Apex facility to reveal they are hiding the eye to Mechagodzilla, and then just fucks off. How he did not notice the massive pinging eye is beyond me. He shows up again once Kong is brought out into the open, and then fucks off. Then once Mechagodzilla started up, he's alerted and immediately heads to Hong Kong. He somehow feels the radiation activation thousands of miles underground, and burns a hole into the fucking hollow earth. For one, that is beyond me. And for two, isn't it just convenient how the one spot Godzilla blasts a hole into from Hong Kong to the center of the earth just so happens to be the one spot where Kong actually is in the throne room? He fights Kong again, beats his ass, and then fights Mechagodzilla as just another opponent. No standoff or even a brief moment to signify that this thing is King Ghidorah. Kong helps him out, takes the spotlight again, Godzilla demands Kong to stand down, and then just fucks off to the ocean. And that's the last we see Godzilla for a while. No brief moment of him taking glory, ruling as the true alpha on Earth while Kong remains at the hollow earth. None of that. It just ends. Now we're going to discuss specifics about Godzilla. He takes a hard backseat in this film, and there's not enough on him for the audience to connect with than compared to Kong's screen time and development. Sure, we had 2 full movies of Godzilla, but there's very little to go off of in this film besides the fact that we don't know why he's going on a rampage, and Millie Bobby Brown has to figure it out. Maybe if we had more of that connection with Ghidorah, it would be stronger, for fuck's sake. Then he immediately fucks off in the end and is just gone. We couldn't get any moments of Godzilla to himself. He's hardly a character in this other than just the Alpha Titan trying to control his territory. That's all it comes down to with him. I wouldn't even go so far to call Godzilla a character at all, since he has no reason to kill Kong other than the fact he's another rival Titan or is just in his territory. Plus, you need to consider how Kong has already existed up until King of the Monsters, and yet Godzilla has not once interacted with him or even taken notice. Not once has he considered him as a rival Titan within this time frame. Basically, why would he even bother with Kong to begin with up until this point all of a sudden? This ancient rivalry bullshit is never once explained other than just a throwaway line to explain why they even fight to begin with. All we get is that one line, the Kong throne room that's never explored, the Godzilla radiation from Hollow Earth, and then the axe, which brings me to the next point where his spines are now retconned to be super sharp when irradiated, to the point that even dead tissue still works. This retroactively damages every previous fight and makes survivability of every kaiju that grabs him questionable. Kong literally jumps on his back in the final showdown with no effect. Hell, when it comes to this movie, Godzilla never kills Kong after winning, despite finishing off every other opponent in the previous movies. Not to mention, slaughtering every other Titan with the opening credits, when at the end of King of the Monsters, they very specifically show that they bow down to him. Rodan's fucking dead. So why he didn't kill Kong right here and then is beyond me. Alright, that team up. Afterwards, I can understand, but Kong here is a clear threat to your rule, is an obstacle in your way. He's literally holding an axe made of your ancestor's spine, and you both have an ancient rivalry that doesn't even show between the two of you, so to not kill him here and end it wouldn't make sense. But of course, we need that shoehorned team up. The atomic breath can now directly go through the surface of the Earth to the Hollow Earth, and any opponent able to survive that is bullshit. Kong should be dead from this one blast. Godzilla was enjoyable to see, but he's hardly in this film. He takes a back seat, gets pushed out of the spotlight more than once, and his own character isn't even explored other than the very little brief moments that we do have. Now let's move on to everyone's favorite giant ape. Kong. He is by far the strongest character out of the entire film. I actually gained sympathy and felt emotion towards him while he fought Godzilla. Now, as for motivation, it's clear he wants to be home and be free. However, he's constantly pushed by the humans to do what they need of him. Fight Godzilla and find the radiation source for Apex. Once again, that ancient rivalry isn't explored between the two. Kongs are now intelligent on par with the recent Homo genus, as seen by the Kong Cetato and Hollow Earth. Kong didn't display any advanced intelligence at Skull Island. Their building abilities and social implications suggest late Stone Age to early Bronze level of advanced civilization. Kongs were rivals to Godzilla's, and yet, on Skull Island, they get wiped out by fucking skull crawlers. Give me a fucking break. Did the the writers didn't even try. And as for the fights with Godzilla and even the war bats, it's so unsatisfying to see Kong unable to basically fend off for himself without any help. The ending fight should have been more equal between him and Godzilla, but not only that, it feels almost unearned considering Kong could barely hold his own. Seriously, he's had to be saved 3 different times by the humans. This movie is on Mandalorian levels of plot armor when it comes to Kong. He needed saving from the humans 3 times, he survives the fall to Hollow Earth with no scratch and continues to run to the Cetato, and grabs onto Godzilla twice without being stabbed, despite showing how sharp Godzilla's spines actually are. He can fight with Godzilla 1v1, but a flying snake is an issue for him when he has immense strength? Bullshit. Speaking of human help, the first fight shouldn't even happen. If they could have transported Kong via aerial, then why not open with that? You fuckers already know the risk of bringing Kong out into the open. Not only is he out in the open, but on the fucking water, where he can't swim for shit. Godzilla can easily come right for him. You already mentioned once he's off Skull Island, it's an immediate death sentence. So even if you avoid Godzilla's territory, it wouldn't matter since he can already sense a rival alpha. Do you dumbbells not even realize how stupid this is? Not only that, but the first fight could still happen, even with the aerial option. Godzilla can surprise everyone by blasting Kong out of the sky, leading to a fight in the water or on some kind of landmass along the way to the Arctic. This film sets up so many more issues for itself than it can even fix. The Hollow Earth itself makes no sense considering this is now the origins of all these titans, yet the majority are somehow still living on Earth's surface. Everything surrounding Kong can basically be narrowed down to either what the plot calls for him, dramatic effect, and mere convenience every time throughout the film. Like I said before, Kong is the strongest character in this entire film, but every moment that benefits him in terms of story is, as mentioned, plot convenience, or the little moments. There's so much wrong with Kong that it actually makes him weaker than what he should be. Plus, that axe should have been utilized more in the final fight than just 2 hits. Oh wait, it is utilized more when Mechagodzilla shows up.
Robo-Godzilla.
No,
That's Mechagodzilla.
Fuck you. Mechagodzilla wasn't a surprise and is rather shoehorned in. He's just here to have a reason for Godzilla and Kong to stop fighting so that way no one would get pissed that one or the other dies. Cowards. Now, the real issue we'll start off with. How the fuck could Apex ever possibly build Mechagodzilla considering the current state of Earth being completely annihilated by 17 different titans, radiation causing new environments to sprout, and the fact that several different governments around the world would be focusing their resources on infrastructure altogether? Once again, this film also takes place 5 years after the previous film. So, within 5 years, you really mean to tell me some random organization that was first founded, developed within those 5 years, on top of secretly building a giant monster, also has the plausibility to gain technology way more advanced than what we have today and beyond what Monarch themselves had 5 years ago? They can control gravity, for fuck's sake. Continuity, people, come on! I find it baffling they managed to stay under the radar from any government attention or even Monarchs. Do you not think Apex somehow getting Skullcrawlers would not be a red flag for Monarch? The only source we know of Skullcrawlers is from Skull Island, which has been under surveillance for the past 10 fucking years. Apex coming into existence in this universe altogether would not be plausible in any way. It's even more suspicious when Godzilla goes out of his way to destroy Apex facilities specifically. Has this not happened before? Would this cause more investigation into Apex? No? What the fuck had this world building come to? Anyway, it's a little pointless to have Skullcrawlers be tested as one-shots when you can already tell this thing is powerful enough to do this. We also find out that Mechagodzilla is somehow piloted by the skull of King Ghidorah. Another reference to the Heisei series. Huh, okay. Ghidorah's brain should have been explored more and possibly have more of a moment of realization with Godzilla, because all we get is Godzilla just seeing another Titan to kill. That's it. And no reference to the fact that Godzilla's rival Alpha is still alive. That should have been the driving force to Godzilla going ballistic. Which leads me to my next question. Where the hell is Charles Dance in this? Wouldn't he want some kind of involvement in this, considering he was the one that originally found Kevin's head? Where the fuck is he even at? Besides, once the head does gain control after that dose of digitally scanned radiation that is transferred, he immediately takes over without any concern or alarm. Remember Monarch security? Oh man, Apex is fucking terrible at it. He kills the founder for no reason, and then begins the final fight for that team-up. Mechagodzilla I don't have much on, nor felt any surprise by his appearance in this film since it's so insignificant, but it just made the world building so fucking awful and implausible. Not only that, but his presence just makes the film feel more like Pacific Rim Uprising, which is bad. Also, remember the oxygen destroyer from King of the Monsters? Yeah, I unfortunately do. That was apparently developed by Apex, or at least that's what was discussed in the Godzilla vs. Kong novel. So, wouldn't it be interesting to have Apex be more involved than just the heaves and Mechagodzilla? Wouldn't it have been cool to implement the one and only man-made weapon that could stand against Godzilla, considering he's been going on a rampage? No? Hell, connecting Apex to the Oxygen Destroyer would at least make some sense, considering it would give a hint that Apex at least existed sometime just before King of the Monsters, rather than starting up right after. As much as Mechagodzilla literally mops the floor with Godzilla, I think it would have raised the stakes a little to implement such a weapon. Need I mention his dumbass weakness? Anyway, didn't feel anything, didn't really care, moving on to our characters. How lovely. Now when discussing everyone, let's summarize the fact that for any characterization that is presented, it's all simple and basic, or even rushed sometimes when the main focus of this film is to just get straight to the monsters fight as quickly as possible. Shit, when thinking about it, as cringe or god-awful the execution might have been in King of the Monsters, I'd say it's better than this film. Anyway, Gia is by far the strongest character with her connection to Kong. The girl who portrays her did a fantastic job, and I'm being honest, I'd argue she has one of the better performances in this entire film compared to everyone else. Her connection with Kong at the very least gives more of an emotional connection than this film desperately needs, especially with the sign language to give more of that human to monster connection. I honestly don't have much on Gia, I think she's good. However, expanding upon that communication between her and Kong, let me point something out. Kong has been in captivity for 10 years, now under constant surveillance, and Dr. Andrews, not once under those 10 years, let alone the amount of time Gia was with Kong, she had ever witnessed Kong show any form of understanding or communication until later on in the film for dramatic effect. Is a plot contrivance. How do you not notice any of this is beyond me? me. More importantly, within those 10 years, before Gia, it almost baffles me how Kong had not escaped their captivity considering his last encounter with human interference. Not to mention, she's horrible in this film. She just agrees with just about every decision on what to do with Kong. Oh yeah, sure, send the giant ape out into the ocean waters for Godzilla to come straight for. That makes perfect sense to me. To be fair, her connection with Gia, with about as little as there is, it's at least her saving grace. Then there's this guy, the fumbling idiot who...
Yeah, don't worry. I'm just here to babysit.
He'll do the job. You just gotta do yours. Who's the idiot who came up with this idea?
Okay, everyone in this film is an asshole to him non-stop. Like, shit, his brother died on a trip to the Hollow Earth. He's the one that came to Andrews in the first place to get Kong moving, and not only that, but it gets at least a tiny bit of redemption when it comes to his character. Man can't get a fucking break, good lord. It's also baffling how he can somehow manage these heaves without the briefest moment of training or any kind of piloting. Even with his backstory to his brother's death, we still don't get any sign that he piloted anything. He's entertaining at the least, but again, there's not much to any of these characters, as I mentioned and will continue to say. Madison is not needed and just continues on her usual proud leading the way know-it-all teen. She literally just acts as Godzilla's side of the story, trying to figure out why Godzilla's on a rampage. Plus, she and everyone else has the most thickest plot armor when it comes to getting what they want. And I thought Monarch's security was bad. Seriously, this is bullshit. This is bullshit, and this is definitely bullshit. She literally acts as the exposition for the audience. Why she's the only one concerned for Godzilla's sudden mood swing is rather concerning since Godzilla is what started your entire organization. So for Dad just to drop it as people change and nothing else, not even a valid connection to Andrew's side of Monarch with Kong, is not only out of character, but also makes no sense in world building. Also, Dad is now important in Monarch because reasons. It's like bringing back Aaron Taylor Johnson because he had direct experience of the 2014 incident. Not to mention, Dad left Monarch after he developed the Orca anyway, and was only forced into King of the Monsters plot because his family was in danger. Holy shit, the story to King of the Monsters is sounding a lot better already. How do you do that? Josh, fucking hate him. He is useless. Black Alex Jones basically spits facts as soon as Madison mentions her dad works for Monarch, and he just so happens to be this conspiracy podcaster that gets everything right, but not the multi-million, actually, let's be honest here, billion-dollar organization who study these animals are able to. Right. Everyone keeps saying he's funny in this, but honestly, he's just bad. I don't even know why it takes him of all people to wake up and realize what's going on with Apex rather than Monarch. All in all, honestly, these three characters are pointless. No character or very little of it for anyone to give a damn, and they once again just act as exposition for the audience. Not Serizawa's son I can barely call a character since he's hardly in it. Not to mention, I don't even think he's necessary other than to act as the pilot for Mechagodzilla. There shouldn't even be a connection between the two. I honestly don't have an issue since it's so insignificant to having very little damaging effect, let alone any kind of impact. But giving him the name Serizawa alone without any indication of his character makes everything not only convoluted, but is also just another example of everyone having poor characterization. He's not needed. Moving on. Apex CEO is just like the villain from Venom in his own way. He just builds Mechagodzilla to become the new Alpha Titan over Godzilla, and that's literally it. I don't care anyway, since the writers clearly don't either, with his poorly executed joke of a death. Oh, and yeah, I forgot about her. She's hot, and that's it. Alright, let's talk technical. Like I mentioned before, the effects are a huge improvement over King of the Monsters. I can see the fights happening, I can see the detail on the models, and the lighting is so much better. No clouds, no smoke, no rain, no snow, nothing. The cinematography in this I also liked. I would say this is possibly my favorite on the entire Monsterverse, next to, say, Godzilla 2014. The CGI especially is so much better, because this is quite possibly the best of visual effects there is in Hollywood. I argue about the same level as Peter Jackson's King Kong. However, it's all unfortunate, as I mentioned, with the movements of these monsters. There's no weight to any of them. They can just fling around, jump around, and run around like a smaller animals. The mass and weight of these monsters is just gone. Both Kong and Godzilla move way too fast for these fights. I would find it more believable if they were, 50 meters, but they're fucking massive. The scale and sizing of the two is constantly inconsistent throughout the entire movie. Kong can fucking change size on a dime, and Godzilla just has the movements of a fucking cat, apparently. Remember when giant monsters used to have weight? When they were massive, lumbering creatures, and to an extent, reasonably fast? Yeah, good times. Because of this film, they have convinced me that Godzilla in 2014 is way larger than what he is now. Like, look at this! Plus, there's no indication of what kind of carrier ship this is, whether it's Monarch-based or if it's something bigger than, say, the Nemesis-class aircraft carrier. There's no indication or possibility yet again. Monarch had the technology for all of this, yet they still use basic battleships, a cargo ship, and a carrier. please. The visual effects throughout the film are gorgeous, and I felt like I was actually immersed in this journey. So much better looking than King of the Monsters. It's flooring how beautiful this film is. I loved looking at every frame in this film. Now you might have noticed I didn't mention anything about the music. Well, that's because the soundtrack is completely forgettable. King of the Monsters had a better score than this. This film only had like 4 scores at best, but even then they're overshadowed by the ridiculously fast pacing of the film and the shitty music choices. Every single Godzilla film, to include Skull Island since it's connected to the series, has had a memorable track. I can even remember the soundtrack to Godzilla's Revenge for fuck's sake, and everyone hates that film. Hell, the fucking anime trilogy of all things had better music, and I hated those films, goddammit. One thing I am happy about, however, is that this film has one thing over King of the Monsters: actual opening credits. Fucking yes! World building, catching up, and... oh no! Yeah, so you can pretty much kiss world building goodbye, because it is totally fucked. I already touched a bit already with Apex, Monarch, and the Hollow Earth, but it's just so insane. I don't understand how Monarch is still going when it's mentioned in King of the Monsters that they were on the verge of shutdown, yet despite having ridiculous amounts of tech and outposts. I guarantee governments around the world, regardless of Monarch's intentions, would want every single Titan destroyed with what remaining resources they have. How are they still even allowed to have full-on Navy escorts? Who did they get permission from? How? And why would anyone outside of Monarch care? Is there no conflict with this new Earth? Monsters exist. There should be outcry for Godzilla's destruction. Seriously, just 5 years ago, the entire world was engulfed by storms and different Titans destroying cities. Is there no discourse, no discussion? What about the many cities that were attacked? What's the radiation like? Are there now no new environments enriched with radiation? Because Godzilla vs. Kong basically disregards everything that has happened in the previous films in favor of just pushing forward the story that is just Godzilla and Kong fighting each other. They introduce new things expecting the audience to just roll with it, yet again with very little effort, and, well, I'm not rolling with it. The Hollow Earth is fucking distorted. We went from hollow caverns and Skull Island underneath the Titanic plates. In King of the Monsters, they were vortexes that led to another channel, and now here it is just as another fucking dimension on Earth, apparently. The world building in this series has been so inconsistent and continually retconned by each film. Seriously, how many ancient rivals does Godzilla have? The Hollow Earth Citadel is obviously built by Kong's, but it's never expanded upon nor explained even once other than just the fact it's Kong's home, and there's supposedly some insight to Godzilla and Kong's ancient past. Technology within the span of these 5 years is ridiculous to the point where everyone can now control gravity with the fucking 1,000-mile long underground tunnel. How the hell did Godzilla not notice this with the skull crawlers and the parts of Mechagodzilla being transported is a plot hole in itself? And you really mean to tell me that this massive Hollow Earth facility located in the Arctic managed to be built within the same 5 years, or already existed by the time Ghidorah's... Look at this place! This is a full-on fucking Imperial station, not something we can possibly make within 5 fucking years. Just like the transport of Kong, the Hollow Earth, Godzilla's rivalry, and reasons to fight Kong, it's just one big mess that somehow manages to be a digestible film. And with that said, despite everything I've gone through, none of that comes close to even touching upon my own feelings towards this film. That, my friends, goes to the unsatisfying ending. This is the film's biggest issue that left a sour taste in my mouth and left me very bitter towards not only this film, but the entire MonsterVerse as a whole. This shit was rushed, unsatisfying, and it happened way too fucking fast. We get a brief moment of Kong and Godzilla conversing with one another to stand down, and then they part ways. That is it. Godzilla just swims away out in the ocean, and Kong gets his rule in the Hollow Earth. Not even a quick victory moment for Godzilla out in the ocean. None of that. Just focused on Kong. He literally steals the entire film. All in all, though, what would I say about Godzilla vs. Kong? Well, I still believe on an entertaining level, it's better than King of the Monsters by a fucking mile. However, in terms of a movie, it's still hard to say other than it's garbage. King of the Monsters made me feel empty and filled with frustration, but Godzilla vs. Kong just left me unsatisfied. I can't completely blame Adam Wingard because he did an excellent job by getting straight to the point. All that blame goes right back to Michael Dougherty and Zach Shields. What do you know, the fucking morons who wrote King of the Monsters also wrote this. No wonder I felt so strongly about this film. These films in the MonsterVerse have gotten worse by each film. Seriously, they just took one criticism from 2014 and just flashed it into your face, saying these films would be better with more monsters on screen, more fighting, more Godzilla, and more Kong. But no. In this film, however, they're right, because that's the entire point. Godzilla and Kong fighting, because Wingard completely glosses over every form of build-up, exposition, world building, character development, and so forth. The novelization of this film supposedly adds so much more detail that would have benefited this film better by making its character stronger and add more to the world building that was significantly missing. And supposedly the same thing has happened with the prequel comics. However, though,
in the book version, you have to read it. This is a movie review. All of that other shit is irrelevant to a discussion about judging the movie on its own merit. You dumb shit.
Yes, thank you, MIB. Yes, the point of Godzilla vs. Kong is to see them fight, but you need to write interesting characters to keep the audience engaged in between fights. 25% of a movie is not enough to be a movie, which is why we have additional characters to be engaged with. Gia is the strongest out of any of the human characters with Kong, but everyone else is either really basic or uninteresting. I will die on this hill defending good storytelling in a monster movie, because the same monster fights is all that's needed is the same as saying this.
This is a film about space wizards intended for children.
So you guys can fuck off with that defense. Overall, I enjoy Godzilla vs. Kong and had fun with it all the way through until that ending I mentioned. You can always have an amazing film, but the ending is the thing you leave people off. And frankly, Godzilla vs. Kong was an absolute hollow goodbye to the series, even though it's obviously going to continue in the future. So I won't be going away anytime soon either. Godzilla vs. Kong gets a solid B from me overall. And no, I'm not copying Chris fucking Stuckman. If we were to apply the same standards from King of the Monsters to this film would be garbage, which it is. However, I'm letting it pass for the simple reason that it's just simply a monster fight film. They advertised it like that, and they delivered like one should be. Non-stop action all the way through, not missing a beat, and it keeps you engaged, uninterrupted, and unlike King of the Monsters' horrendous pacing, even though the pacing to this film is also just as bad. This film was a difficult one to comment on based on the series it's a part of. The films that came before it, especially what started it all, and what it presented itself to be. It's a simple monster movie and one everyone can enjoy on some level. Even the retarded Snyder fans can enjoy it too, if they weren't so full of themselves. As for the Monsterverse continuing, I don't know where it'll take it, but my expectations are now forever low. I would like to see Gamera be the next big thing in this series. Seriously, make it happen, Legendary. I would love to see it, and I bet you everyone else would too. But that does it for me, for now at least. And with that said, I just wanted to give a quick thank you to these guys for helping out with the writing process for this review. Otherwise, this would have come out months later. Speaking of which, if you want to see me make more reviews or more fan trailers that all 3,000 of you so enjoy, please consider supporting my Patreon, because YouTube doesn't give a fuck about people like me. And if any of you would like to interact with me, I'm active on Discord in these two servers. Links are provided. I'll catch you crazy fuckers later. We're on our journey to the end.
Wow. Who's the idiot who came up with this idea?
Versus Godzilla, where's Queen Kong versus Godzilla?
Or, here's another idea that's going to be very controversial. You could shut the fuck up.